Good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome. Let me apologize for keeping you waiting. That is completely my fault today. Um, my journey here was not an easy one. There's roadblocks everywhere. I think we're fully back out of lockdown because the workmen are out. But thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for being here. And as advertised already, today we're going to have a conversation about immigration. I think the word immigration has been one that is so common with us here in the UK. We've been discussing immigration for, I can't remember when we didn't discuss it in the last 10 years. It's one of the strongest bases for which we have Brexit today, for which we are here deciding to leave the EU, because we were being told that our borders was, just left open, and we no longer had control. There was too many people just being able to come into the UK anyhow, anyway. So there's been, a huge demand that needed to change, at least by, some people, not all. And as such, we have seen so many changes. In 2014, a new law came into force. I think it was in August 2014. And when that law came into force, oh my God, did things change? It just, for me, it seemed to be so invasive. As far as I was concerned, very, very intruding with some of the requirements, and the expense was huge on families, on individuals. And then we moved from that. It still wasn't satisfactory. We still had the whole Brexit situation. And if you've been paying attention, you would have noted that, the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, has been speaking about the fact that the will of the people, the mandate of the people has to be achieved. And that needs to be achieved by new rules. And, the whole talk of new immigration system, more points-based system, more like Australia style, so that, when people are coming in, you're coming in because you have such great talents, and, you're going to be so useful to the UK and so on. So we've had all of that. But what did all of that really mean? What does it mean to you and I? What does it mean if you're coming from an EU country? What does it mean if you're coming from any of the Commonwealth, non-EU countries? How does that affect you? How does it affect you as a student? How does it affect you as a married person? I know there are so many people who are probably on the edge of their seats because they just don't know what that means. And they're just concerned about the effect. I mean, we have seen so many things up to now. We've seen people who are Europeans that have lived in the UK for such a long time, and their documents, they're having to prove who they are all over, because the Home Office have mysteriously either lost their documents or, will tell them it no longer exists. I'm not even going to mention the Windrush situation because, today is not the day to sort of go into that, because that is quite deep, at least for me, and I'm sure for so many of us that are watching also. But enough of my rambling. Today, I have a guest who is a wonderful professional. I mean, recently he has won some, been able to overturn some decisions in court for some of his clients. He works from the Great James Street Chambers, and he's been practicing immigration for quite some time. So let me just welcome him so that he can try to help us to understand what's happening and what we're likely to see. So let's welcome to the show tonight, Mr. Chengetai Mupara. I hope I said that right, sir. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much. Yes, I can hear you. And I want to thank you very much for the introduction and for inviting me along to your show.
Oh, it's so good to have you.
And, yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I said your name there. In my pronunciation, in my head, it's Chengetai. Did I say that right?
Chengetai.
Chengetai, okay.
Chengetai is Chengetai is the correct way to pronounce it. Yes.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. I used to have a dear friend from Zimbabwe called Tendai. So, but anyway, welcome. So,
sounds similar.
Sorry?
So Tendai and Chengetai sound similar.
Yeah, at least they all end in that with the I, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's dive into it, because I've kept people waiting today. So and I knew that immigration is so broad and we can go on and on and on, and there are so many different areas. But let's just start from the top. Let's go back to the what came in 2014 and how that changed our immigration laws as we know it, with regards to if you're a student, if you're a married couple, and so on. So please take it away for me.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the show. I think as we are going to be discussing the changes that came into force around 2014, as you say, there are even more bigger changes that are just around the corner. Because just this week, the government published this bit of legislation here. I don't know whether I can see it. It's the UK's new points-based system. It's shiny and brand new.
Yeah, we're going to cover.
Yes.
But I want us to have a foundation of the 2014 change of, as it were. What was that? What did that mean for previously?
So for me, the biggest change in immigration law in recent times did not really actually happen in 2014.
Okay.
It happened in 2012.
All right.
Now, what happened in 2012 or 14 and onwards was this idea when Theresa May was Home Secretary that they were going to make life for people who were in the UK without leave so difficult. We are going to stop them from holding driving licenses. We are going to stop them from opening and operating bank accounts. We are going to stop them from renting properties and houses. And all those changes. Now, what you saw, that was what most people in immigration lawyers, immigration advocates, immigration campaigners started campaigning against this idea of making life for immigrants living here so horrible that they would choose to leave on their own volition, because evidently the government was failing in reducing the number of illegal immigrants or bringing down the immigration figures.
Right.
Now, the nefarious consequences of those decisions is what led to the Windrush scandal that you referred to, because all of a sudden, anyone who could not prove that they had the right to live here was caught up in that mess, including British citizens. That is what made the changes in 2014 and the associated impact of it so pernicious, because it just didn't affect only illegal immigrants or undocumented migrants. It affected British citizens. So if you can't prove that you're British, then you've got to leave. You can't have a job. So employers, for example, I'm representing several people at the moment who, because they made applications to regularize their stay many years ago, they haven't been able, the Home Office has delayed in making a decision a long time. Now they go looking for jobs, and because they have no current leave to remain, or what is called a biometric residence permit, evidencing their right to be in the UK, the employers are saying, look, we can't keep you on a job unless you can prove that you have a right to work. And people are being dismissed from their jobs for those reasons. Now, this is, in the current case that I've got, it's a guy who's been here for a long time, he's got stay, he's got permission to work. But what's happened is, because the Home Office haven't decided his case for more than 7 years, no one believes him when he says, my application has been pending for 7 years. They say, look, you're just lying. the risk of employing you is too high. Because if an employer is found to be employing people without carrying the necessary immigration checks, that employer stands to be fined several thousands of pounds, I think then £20,000. So no, a lot of employer wouldn't take that risk. So that is why those changes in 2014 were horrific. I read somewhere today that the Home Secretary is minded to reconsider. We call that the hostile environment. So she said that she wants to review the hostile environment. I don't think she's serious about it, but it needs to be changed.
If truth be told.
Yes.
But let's come forward now. So the hostile environment is still very much there.
It is there.
And then we've had the whole Brexit situation, as I said, and there's been, I mean, the talk of the immigration and the systems, and there were changes, and then there's more changes. But I think more recently in February, there was, an announced change, obviously after the whole stepping out of the first phase of stepping out of the EU, which happened last December. There was a new conversation and a new law in February, a new announcement regarding our immigration, and that was about the new immigration systems, as it were, that was put in place. So I want us to look at that now with regards to that. As I said, it's always been a discussion of our borders have been left porous, and we need to take back control. We need to get Brexit done. But in those, those catchphrases, lives are being affected every day. Whether they're students, they are, workers, and so on. We're all seeing it. If it's not affecting you directly, you will know somebody who knows somebody. We're all somewhat 6 degrees away from that. So let's dive into that. When it comes to, I know previously, as a student, for instance, one of the things that the hostile environment created, demanded, if you were a non-EU student, you had to go back to your country and apply, say, for instance, during the summer holidays, and then come back in. And it also afforded you to be able to, after your studies, have a 2 years working permit. Let's talk about what's happened with that, with regards to the new announcements that we've recently had.
Yes, so if I can just talk to you briefly about the points-based system, or this idea that we are going to have a new Australian points-based system. Now, what a lot of people who don't work in immigration don't understand is that we have had a points-based immigration system since 2012.
Yes.
And every election season, we are being told that we need an Australian-style point-based system, which for some reason works fantastic and is magic. But we've had this system since 2012. And when you look at the new immigration system, this one that I'm talking about, it's not getting rid of the current point-based system that we have. It is making very, very fine and insignificant, in most cases, tweaks to an already existing system. Now, there are a few changes in relation to students, where you touched on, where you said you needed to leave.
So what you're saying is, we're hearing so much about this new points-based system and, all of that.
No,
There's real changes happening with that.
No, if you are expecting a brand new, shining, new immigration system, you're going to be disappointed.
Okay.
Because I have, like most lawyers who are working in this environment, when the government made the policy announcement in February, we were all waiting for this amazing new immigration system that they were going to announce.
Yeah.
And So we waited for months, and just a few weeks ago, eventually we got an announcement. This 130 pages of a document. Most lawyers, most of my friends, my colleagues at the bar, solicitors, were all waiting to see this new immigration system. But it was a damn squib. It wasn't that exciting because there is nothing really. There will be changes, but the government has not laid out any of the finer details.
Is it that there's regards to what or what the
Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly there. I didn't catch your question.
I said, is it that there is no clarity
there is no
to what the real changes are going to be? Is that what you're saying?
There is no clarity.
Okay.
Which is very frustrating for a lot of people.
Right.
Lawyers, clients, businesses who needs to organize and plan long-term planning for their future workforce, for their future students. It's just not clear enough. Okay. And because bearing in mind that these changes are supposed to come into force in January next year, from a business point of view, from a college, an institutional point of view, where you need to plan significantly well in advance, this system doesn't really give you any much confidence because there's very little in it.
Document is effectively highlights. What are the highlights within the sound bites that the little
the highlights? So yeah. So to deal with this issue, the highlights for students, for example, one of the changes, the significant changes, is they don't need to leave the country.
Okay.
To reapply or to extend their visas, so they can do that and do the switching in country. But most of they still have to meet the requirements. There used to be you used not to be able to switch from one category of the immigration rules to another within country, but now you can under the new system. They have introduced several other changes that are going to make the system. Okay, so I hope it's going to be more efficient. But
pause for a moment. Pause for a moment for me, just for clarity, for the sake of those who are watching. You just said, because I know that once upon a time, way back in the 90s, for instance, you used to switch. If you came in as a student, visitor, you could switch to become a student. You could switch because you married somebody. But then all of that was changed. Are you now saying that that's been reversed?
What the proposals, and let's just understand that these are proposals at the minute. They are proposing that if you are coming as a student or in many of the various visa categories, the requirement to leave the country in order to renew or make an application in a different category is gone. You can do that within the UK. You don't have to leave. Now, most people don't understand why that hasn't been the case for so many years, because it sounds very reasonable that it should be that way. So perhaps that's a small movement in the right direction in relation to to students and other people in other categories. They've also come up with different criteria for how students or other people, workers, people coming to join family are going to be considered under the rules. Okay. Which is not too difficult. You still have to meet the minimum requirements. For example, people who are coming to study here, both EU and non-EU students have to meet a certain number of points before they're allowed to come in to stay. Now, that's not too different from the Tier 4 visa, which is the current student visa. You still have to meet requirements. They've then introduced other, in terms of workers, they have also introduced a different way of scoring points, such as, workers have to score 70 points, So 50 are what are called mandatory points. If you could, and then you need to gain 20 more points on top of the 50 to get 70 points. We can go into the discussion of what are the mandatory points and what are they called tradable points.
Right. Okay. For the sake of and let's look at, for instance, do you require 100 points or do you require 50 points in order to qualify?
Well, you require 70 points. If I can just check the student criteria. Coming to study, you will require 70 points. So they've got what they call mandatory points.
Okay.
So in order to come to the UK to study, you have to have a place, you have to have the course of study confirmed, you have to meet the level of study, and then also the financial requirement. They look at whether you can accommodate yourself and pay the fees during the course of your study.
I mean,
and you also
anyway.
Yes, yes.
But with reference to points, how many points does that accrue for you?
So there are three. So in the student category, there are 50 points. There are three categories. There you need to 10 points for speaking English. You need to pass some kind of English test in order to be admitted. Okay. Admittedly, these are not very difficult or complicated tests. Most people, if you're coming to study at university, I don't think you have any problems passing these tests.
Now, let me ask, there are those from countries where their lingua franca is English. Are they still required to pass these tests, or are they exempt?
Yes, you still need to pass a test. It depends. See, I come from Zimbabwe and I was taught in school in English from year one until university. But Zimbabwe is not one of the countries where whatever English they teach there is accepted as proper English, if you like. So
I think if you African countries,
so there are a few Caribbean countries. There are countries on a list. So there are countries on a list like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and countries which are exempt. But if you're coming from most African countries, you are not exempt.
But that's so unfair, because if you're not coming from a francophone country and you're coming from an anglophone country, surely you should, because English is our lingua franca, so it shouldn't be an issue.
I've never understood why.
Okay, so anyway,
why a lot of Commonwealth countries, for example, I have not even understood why they are all not exempt, because the system, the language of instruction in schools and the language of business in those countries is English.
Right.
So I've never understood why they are not part of these exemptions, but it's an argument for another day. Absolutely. And then so you get 10 points for English, you get 10 points for financial requirements. So that is, they need to see whether you're able to afford your fees, whether you've got enough resources to pay for your accommodation and whatever is required. 10 points. And then the third category is 50 points.
Okay.
That is for study. So these are things like you must have what is confirmation of acceptance studies requirement, a course requirement, a level of study requirement. Now, the level of study requirement, you remember that there used to be something, you could come here as a short-term student for, say, 3 months, 6 months. That seems to have disappeared now in the new immigration system. So that's how you score your 70 points as a student.
Okay, so that's 70 points. Fine. For the sake of time, I do want us to move on because obviously there are, other areas. I read somewhere that you no longer have to, for instance, you know, if you were coming in from a non-EU country and you were just coming to visit, you would have to have a visa to do that. Is that still the case for
Yeah.
non-EU countries, or is that going to change?
So if I catch, are you asking if non-EU citizens need visas to come to the UK?
For as a visitor, you know, once you want to be able to get a 6 month visiting visa when you were coming in, especially if you're coming from the Commonwealth countries or you're coming from non-EU countries. That used to be the case once upon a time. Is it still the case, or is that likely to change? Because I read something about the fact that you didn't need to have that 6 months visa from your country that you're coming from.
You will still need to apply for visas.
Okay.
What happens with these situations is there are countries that are not visa countries. So, for example, if you were to come from Australia or another country, you can turn up at the airport and you get your passport stamped with some kind of visa to allow you to stay in the UK. I know that there used to be several African countries where you could come to the UK without having applied for a visa previously. You just turn up at the airport and get it stamped. Now, I know that Zimbabwe used to be one of those countries. When I came to the UK 15, 20 years ago, I didn't have to apply for a visa. But around 2005, they introduced a visa for Zimbabwe, which means anyone who's coming from Zimbabwe needs to apply for a visa. There are still other countries around the world where they are not required to apply for visas prior to visiting the UK.
The white Commonwealth countries, for instance, Australia, Canada, don't need to acquire a visa in order to come in as a visitor. And that still stands. And Commonwealth countries need to have their visa. That's still the case. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I would hate for people to believe that the new immigration system is going to make things much easier for immigration into the UK, because
that's what you know, the minister tells us. The minister tells us that, you know, the whole idea is to open up the UK, you know, so that we can attract the best talents. So, for instance, speaks of the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, once upon a time you needed to have a degree if you were coming, if you're applying for certain jobs. But I understand that has been lowered. Is that the case? It's now lowered A levels. Is that correct?
Yeah, A level and above. Now, you should be able to come to the UK to study courses that were not degree level courses.
Yes.
Some diplomas, but that is gone now.
Okay.
Under the new system, those short-term courses are no longer covered here. So that's gone. So they're taken with one hand and typically it gave with the other. That's so in terms of, so I can show you in this document here, they have.
So the matter of stopping that particular route, that, you know, to come into the UK, for instance, is that something that is starting from January 2021, or is it already in operation?
That is a consequence of the new immigration system.
Okay.
And it's in the pipeline. It's going to come into force in January. Yeah, and so in the new immigration document, the new immigration system, they have produced there are 16 pages of the number of jobs that are considered not to be skilled jobs, where people in these categories will not be allowed to come to the UK to start to work here, because the jobs they do is not considered to be skilled employment.
Okay.
Or skilled jobs. You will be surprised by some of the jobs that are not considered to be skilled jobs, because in the current climate, where a lot of people from outside, from both EU and outside the EU, have been working very hard in our care system and in our hospitals caring for people in the age of COVID. Now, in the new system, so this is a list of people who are not considered to be skilled workers. Care assistant, someone who is a care assistant has no right under the new immigration system to apply to come to the UK and work here. A care worker is prohibited under the new immigration system.
Wow.
A carer is not a skilled worker, so they won't be allowed. Because remember, the idea of the new immigration system is to attract the brightest and the cleverest. And care workers, so a home care assistant, a home carer, and a support worker in a nursing home, those people are not going to be allowed to stay under the new immigration system. This issue surprised a lot of people because they thought because of what happened with COVID, most of the people who cared for our sick and elderly in the UK, both in the hospitals and care homes, are people from abroad.
So it seems like to be able to just have some kind of rules that should permit care workers and those within that sector to remain, making it easy for them to come in, for instance.
You can still, if you work in health and care, you can still come and work in the UK, but it's at the high end of the qualification. So if you are a nurse, you might still be able to come in, but if you are a care worker, you are not allowed. You won't be able to qualify under this system. So this system is clearly designed to stop people who are not the brightest, or who Priti Patel or the government don't consider to be the brightest.
Wow.
Coming to the UK.
Okay. But I don't understand. If we are allowing people to come in, for instance, that have A levels or equivalent, we're not allowing care workers. Care workers will also have A levels or equivalent, no?
So they may be able to if they were coming to study, they may, well, as a result of their qualification, they may, if they were coming to study nursing, or they were coming to study whatever degree, they could come in on the basis of their education as students, but they won't be able to simply apply to come to the UK to do care work, because the system does not consider that to be a skilled job.
Now that is okay. So let me just move you very quickly to the areas that, again, during this COVID situation, we saw there was a huge concern, and that is the area of casual workers that came in from the EU, for instance, pick fruits.
Yes.
I read somewhere that now, they could still come in, and the number has been increased to about 10,000. Is that correct?
10,000. What? The seasonal workers.
Yeah.
So currently, anyone from the EU, as you know, is allowed to come to the UK, no visa, and be here for 3 months without exercising treaty rights. But in the new system, anyone coming to the UK, both EU and non-EU, will need to have a visa and need to show that they have the right to be here in order to live here. So the EU immigrants from the EU, if you are trying to or planning to come to the UK after the new year, they still have to apply for visas. And if you're coming to if you were a seasonal worker, fruit pickers, for example, that's not a skilled job anymore, and you won't be allowed to come here to do that.
Okay, so that's no longer allowed?
It's not a skilled job.
I'm aware that it's not a skilled job, but for instance, the situation during the whole lockdown where farmers were sending, they were sending out jets to pick up workers from farms. that was reported in the newspapers.
Yeah.
So did what I read, was that incorrect, where it was suggesting that seasonal workers were still going to be able to retain their rights to come in, and that they had increased the numbers of seasonal workers that could come in?
It may well be that they were talking about the current agricultural season, or the current need because of the agricultural season at the moment.
Right.
If you are coming to work, if you are coming from Poland, Germany, or any of these countries to work in the UK, after the new year, you need to have a visa. Now, what they always say is, that we are not going to put caps on the number of people who are coming in. It's going to be dependent on economic needs. I have already found that since Brexit, there has been a significant reduction in the number of EU citizens coming here to do seasonal work like they used to do for many years. Now, these are the impact of Brexit, because I've also watched television shows where farmers were throwing produce away because there was nobody to pick it because of the reduction in numbers of people coming to do these jobs. Now, an economy needs both skilled and unskilled labor. That is just a fact.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether down the line there are going to be more relaxing of these rules to allow cheap labor. Now, if, for example, the local British population is unable, unwilling, for example, to fulfill some of the existing vacancies, I don't know whether that is going to lead to because there's also a provision for shortage in particular industries. So if there's a massive shortage of labor in, say, agriculture through a season, the rules could be relaxed to allow people to come in and do those jobs.
Right.
It's baked in the system, but you wonder whether how practicable that is going to be. If you came in because there was a need of apple pickers in one season, what happens after the season is ended? Can you stay, or do you have to leave? Those are practical questions that people need answers for.
Okay. So let me just go back for a minute. I know that I think it was it wasn't Human Rights Watch. Anyway, I'll get their names up, who had on their website, who had talked about the fact that this new pronouncement, new so-called immigration system, is suggesting that low-skilled workers will be able to come in from the EU as they've always done, but there was no specific there was no specifics as to how that was going to happen. So I just wanted to because, for instance, 70%, it stated that 70% of EU workers will not meet the skilled workers route requirement to be able to come in. But then there's no specific, law for low-skilled workers that says if you're low-skilled. But at the same time, it did suggest that low-skilled workers will still be able to come in. Am I making sense? Well,
it's not your fault. You are making.
So on one hand, they can still come in, but there's no specific route within the law that says you can come in.
Which is why it's not your fault. You are making perfect sense. Right. This is because, and the rules are unclear. The government have published a policy that they intend to put in place, but they haven't laid out the law. And so it's not, no one knows the specifics. This is why I was saying at the beginning of this show, I was very excited, barristers and lawyers and other people who interact with UK immigration system to find out the real details of this new immigration system. But we were all very disappointed and deflated when the Secretary of State published the guidance, because it just doesn't have enough detail and information for anyone to work with any confidence, because it's so vague.
Okay, so very. I just tell me what it does for. If at all, if you're married, if you're a married couple, and you're coming from the EU, and if you're coming from the non-EU countries, tell us what this new immigration system affords you, and what.
Well, in relation to families, currently, if you are coming to the UK to join a parent or a spouse, you can do that under what is called Appendix FM. It deals with applications applications for entry clearance, applications for leave to remain, and applications for settlement from abroad. You have to satisfy the requirements. It is this. Then the difference for EU migrants is they were simply able to come to the UK without needing to prove anything, because they were EU nationals exercising their free movement rights across the EU. But under the new system, this is a significant change for EU family migration, because they now have lost their special status within the EU. They just have to make applications like everybody else used to do. You will still be able to come. There are several rules and several categories in which you can apply even now. I haven't seen any suggestions that the new immigration system is going to do away with those existing family applications. We'll have to wait and see.
Applications, earlier we spoke about for students, if you spoke English, it was 10 points maybe.
Yeah.
And there was a 50-pointer that you needed to pick up if you had your course, you had applied and been accepted.
Yeah.
Is the family application also subjected to accruing points as well in order to qualify?
No. Family applications are not currently part of the points. The points-based system as it exists. For example, if your wife was in the UK and you wanted to come and join your wife, you needed to prove that you are married, you've met your wife, you are not related. What kind of your relation you have beyond marriage. You needed to show that your relationship is genuine and subsisting. Critically, you also needed to show that you will be accommodated without recourse to public funds. You also needed to show that you will be maintained without recourse to public funds. So your partner needs to earn at least £18,600 in order for you to be able to come and join your wife.
Okay.
And
so
the same applies.
The qualifying figure is £18,600.
Yes, under Appendix FM, if you want to come and join as a partner, so it could be an unmarried partner, it could be a spouse, it's £18,600.
Right.
If you have children, you need to have £3,800 for the first child and £2,400 for each additional child.
Wow.
So it does add up.
So that's separate to the £18,000 you should have.
Yeah. So if a husband is coming to join, so if a husband and two children are coming to join a wife who is here,
right.
The partner, the wife who is here, needs to show that she earns she has 18,600 plus 3,400, plus 3,800 and 2,400 pounds. So that works out at around £25,000. which a lot of people have complained that is discriminatory or unfair, in the sense that, you know, the minimum wage is way lower than £25,000 in the UK. There are mechanisms. There was a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and there are mechanisms where if someone is unable to meet what is called the minimum financial requirement, if the effect of refusing the application is will produce unjustifiably harsh consequences for either the child or the partner, they may be allowed to stay. They may be allowed to come in regardless. The difference was, if you could afford the £18,600,
right,
you get what is called onto what is called a 5 route to settlement, which means you can remain in the UK indefinitely after 5 years. But if you couldn't meet the requirements, say you earn less than £18,600, for example, but it is decided that it will be unjustifiably harsh, nevertheless, to refuse entry, you go into what is called a 10-year route to settlement.
Wow.
So you won't be able to get indefinite leave to remain after 5 years, you get it after 10 years.
So you would get, for instance, leave to remain do you get an instant leave to remain for a period of 10 years, or do you get it for a period of, say, 2 years, and you have to renew it up until 10 years?
So if you are on the 5-year route for settlement, for example, you don't get indefinite leave to remain. What you get is limited leave to remain for a period of 30 months, and then they give you a further period of 30 months. And after the end of the 5, if you have been here for 6, so how many months are in 5 years? Is it 60 months?
60 months.
If you have been here continuously for 60 months, that is the point at which you become eligible to apply for indefinite leave to remain. It's not automatic. You still have to apply for it. Okay. Now, if you were on the 10-year route for settlement, they will give you a period of leave, which is 30 months, and it has to be renewed after 2.5 years. And the critical thing about it is the applications are very expensive, because if you are going to make an application today for one of these spouse applications, the fee to the Home Office is £1,300.
Wow.
There's also what is called the NHS surcharge, which is mandatory for most people, including health workers at the moment. But because of COVID, they said health workers don't need to pay this. They are still paying it, but they will be refunded. Now, the NHS surcharge is currently £1,000 when you make an application. It's going up on the 1st of October to £1,500. Yeah, so you can imagine that, and this is if you are clever enough and competent enough to make this application without legal representation. Any competent solicitor at all doing this work will charge no less than £1,200 to do a decent job. So if you consider legal fees, the NHS surcharge, and the Home Office fee, you are talking £4,000.
That's quite
every 2.5 years.
So let me ask you this. I know that there's been a representation by human rights groups and NGOs and so on, that the government should revisit those charges and reduce them, or in some cases don't have them at all. After all, there was a time those charges didn't exist.
Yes.
Are there any in this new rule now, or this new 130-page document, are there any references to addressing that, either for it to be reduced or for it to
No, there is no reference to this because this particular policy is concentrating on the new points-based system, and this family migration routes lie outside the points-based system. But there has been, so for example, the Supreme Court in recent times, I think a couple of months ago, ruled that I think at the beginning of the year, if you are registering a child to become a British national, so after having been here for a period of 10 years, they charge about £1,300 for a child's application. And then you have a lot of families who are unable to apply to afford the fee, so the child doesn't get to have their British citizenship for a number of years. The Supreme Court found that the fee was unfair because they were so high. But the Home Office hasn't changed the fee. They might reduce or they might come up with a policy later down the line, but it is unfair.
Okay.
The other issue.
So there's a decision already in the Supreme Court that
the Supreme Court has already ruled that charging children 1,000, thousands, several hundreds of pounds to make a British national registration application is unfair. It's unlawfully high, given the actual cost of the Home Office.
That hasn't been implemented yet.
No, that hasn't been implemented yet. You can apply for what is called a fee waiver. What I hear from solicitors who instruct me and other people that I've talked to is that although the Home Office have not yet changed their policy, a lot of people are saying when they make the applications, if you make an application for a fee waiver, they might just waive the fee. People have noticed a significant number of fee waiver applications being accepted. But I have no statistics on that. Okay. A lot of people do this. A lot of people do these applications without
situations where they sort of do it underhand. They don't want to make but then if you do make the effort to make the request, we will assess it for you.
Yeah, if you were to apply with a lawyer, for example, who is aware that they need to complete what is called a fee remission, or not a fee remission, a fee waiver application. But most people who are not lawyers might not know.
Yes.
All they do, they go on the Home Office website, they're asked to pay the fee, they pay the fee, and then say nothing ever comes of it. You've paid the fee, you've got your child status, and that's the end of it. But you didn't know you could have applied for a fee waiver.
So for children, so for any applications going out now, for instance, for those who are watching and listening, there is an opportunity or there is an avenue where the fee can be waived if you're for the application for children. So that £13 no longer need to be paid as long as they apply.
You need to make an application for fee waiver. The application itself is not that simple. That is why sometimes it's better to. I would say to anyone who wants to make an application, an immigration application, speak to a lawyer.
Yes.
It's always a good idea. The other thing
important.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the issue of fees in relation to. I've lost because there's a fee waiver. Yes, these fee waiver applications. There was also a recent Supreme Court decision.
Okay.
The Home Office say, because usually most applications for fee waivers were being refused because in order to qualify for a fee waiver, you have to demonstrate that you were presently destitute, and so you cannot afford to pay the fee, or paying the fee will put you over the threshold into destitution. Now, so it was called a destitution test. Now, the Supreme Court has now, this is like in the last couple of months, decided that the Home Office are using the wrong test in making this application. The test should not just that you are destitute or your first destitution. It should be one of affordability, because I may not be destitute at the moment. I can pay for my electricity, for my gas, I can feed my family. But if you then ask me, to renew a visa application for me, my wife, and 3 children, remember, 3,000, so 18,600, 3,800 for the first child, 2,400 for
the second,
every additional child. I represented a family of 4 last year in an application. I think it was an application for indefinite leave to remain. They paid £10,000 to the Home Office.
Wow. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. Using the destitution test.
Yeah, it's too restrictive. It's too high.
Yeah, because if you're destitute already, I doubt that you're going to be able to pay for an amount.
You can see how this affects families.
That decision gone through?
The decision was made by the highest court in the land.
Okay,
it is there. So this is why, if you're going to make the application, a lawyer will tell you that, first of all, say for a British national child, or want to register a child as a British national, you need to pay £1,200. The solicitor will be able to tell you that the Supreme Court said that decision was that fee was unjustifiably high to the extent that it was unlawful. And 2, so there's a way out of that is the fee waiver application. Now, the fee waiver application, you have to say to the Home Office, why can't you afford the fee? Now, they've also reduced the test from so the Supreme Court has reduced the test from one of destitution to affordability. So you may just be able to find somebody who is skilled enough to make a successful fee waiver application, which means if you're registering a child, for example, you may be able to do it without paying the Home Office fee.
Okay, excellent. That's information to know. That for those who are watching, you have to use the fee waiver form in order to be able to qualify to not pay fees for the children. And you can also argue that the fee for the whole application is just unjustifiably too high for you to be able to afford. Thank you very much for that. I do want us, look at the EU citizens. I know that before we came on, we spoke briefly about that. The EU citizens, it has left everybody who's an EU national confused as per what is likely to happen to them. So now, these new immigration systems that we're talking about with regards to students, how is that going to impact the EU citizens? Are they going to have the same sort of waivers or lesser impact like that that we have with those who are from Canada or from Australia, for instance?
This is one area where you just have to wait until the detail is published, because as you remember, what's going to happen with EU nationals, EU citizens in terms of their rights was all part of the withdrawal agreement. So because EU nationals, once after we've already left the UK, and if we leave without a deal, I mean, the deadline is the 31st of December this year. It looks like EU nationals who are coming to the UK will need to apply for student visas, just like people outside the UK. What I've read and heard is that the government might make some kind. because remember, these things are not finalized, because although we've got a withdrawal agreement, there's still a lot of negotiation going on in terms of what the settlement is going to be like. For example, if you are an EU citizen who is already here partway through their course, what the settlement is going to be for new EU citizens going to study, coming to the UK to study, British citizens going the other way to study. It's just, at the moment, there's not enough detail.
Okay, so let me just halt you for a minute. I just want us to just take one step back. The whole reason for the withdrawal agreement and all the fight and skirmish that we saw, all the political backstabbing, was because the withdrawal agreement we had to agree on how we were going to go forward. Yeah, if I'm right. And then at the moment, the conversation that we're having right now, it's a conversation about how we're going to trade with the EU. Is that correct? So if that is the case, why has the government then why then is the law with regards to how the students or the visitors or, any EU citizen wanting to come in, why don't we have clarity on that? Is that not contained in the withdrawal?
Well, the way it's always been said is that the withdrawal agreement is the general framework of where we'd like to go. Okay. It sets the vision of, and the terms of discussion and negotiation around the final settlement. It's not, so that's why, in terms of EU nationals, for example, and British citizens living inside the EU, no one knows what's going to happen, because individual countries are taking individual action on different aspects. For example, the settled status in the UK, I don't know what policies other EU nations are pursuing in terms of British citizens, long-established British citizens living within those territories.
Okay, so rules, for instance, are still in place, at least for now, until the 31st of December 2020?
Yeah, so at the moment, EU law is still operating the same way it does, but there is a deadline for the 31st of December this year. Now, if there is no agreement, the transitional period might kick in after that. And the government say there's not going to be a transitional agreement, or that they're going to live without a deal. So leaving the EU without a deal is one of the outcomes. Now, who is going to know whether there's going to be any reciprocity within what we do with immigration, with EU immigrants currently living here, and what EU member states are going to do with British citizens currently residing within the territory of their member states.
Okay.
It's just not clear at the moment, because it's part of an ongoing negotiation.
I see. Any joy on the health card? I know that, currently we can travel within the 28 countries or 27 countries rather. And if we have issues, we can we can use their health systems. It helps if you have your own health insurance. And you had to have a health card for that. Mention on what may happen with that?
The European health insurance system is, again, one area where you can't have clarity in this current environment, because you just don't know what is going to happen. Because that could be resolved. Reciprocal, immigration systems, it's all part of the negotiation. I don't know at the moment what is going to happen if. Here's the situation. If we leave the EU with a deal, And that may well be one of the issues that are important to British citizens traveling to Europe for holiday or.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask you, what will happen, for instance, the EU.
European citizens,
Yeah, I think we're having
to the UK.
Hello? I think your internet's having one of its moments. We've been quite lucky so far.
So those are the issues that might. But if we live without a deal,
I didn't catch any of that.
So I'm very sorry about that. I don't know what is happening.
It was the internet, but I didn't hear any of that. So if you can just repeat.
Yeah, I was saying, the issue with the EU health insurance system.
Yeah,
depends on how we are going to leave the EU. If we live without a deal, there may well be reciprocal agreements and insurance policies around the EU. For example, if you in the current system, if you are in the EU, or if you are from the EU, you've bought your insurance, you get access to the to treatment anyway, and vice versa. But what if we live without a deal?
This is interesting. Am I right in thinking because things are so unsettled at the moment, as you say, that it equally applies to us, UK citizens, going to Europe for our annual holidays, for instance? Are we going to be affected if we do not have this deal in the bag as at the 30th of December? And we want to go in March, and we want to go somewhere in June next year. You know, we like to go to Spain quite a bit. Are we going to be affected?
Yes. Yeah, it will. It is going to be affecting us. So, for example, if I was to go on holiday to an African country, I have to pay my health insurance, extra insurance for that kind of thing. But when I go to Spain, I just pack my passport and jump on a plane and enjoy the sun. I don't have to worry about health insurance. But you can imagine a situation where there's no agreement. You then have to worry about your insurance when you travel to the EU.
I'm talking about, UK citizens going to the EU. Yeah. If there is no agreement at the moment for EU citizens coming in, is it also correct that that means that UK citizens also going to Europe will be affected? They equally may have to apply for a visa, maybe have to get the Schengen or any other type of visa to get into the EU.
See, it's all part of the immigration negotiation within the Brexit landscape, because the way people move from one country to another is regulated by those countries that you are entering and leaving. So if there is absolutely no deal, you can expect to have to apply for a visa to go to Spain. Wow. And to sort out your own health insurance, unlike before. So it's going to affect a lot of British citizens. Now, the issue is, because this is part of a negotiation, I don't know whether how the EU or members of the EU value British immigration and British tourism. It may well be that because of these economic factors, there could be an agreement that we may not need, British citizens going abroad may need to apply for visas. There is actually a suggestion within the new immigration system that British EU citizens coming to the UK may not need to apply for a visa in the same way that people from Africa, Asia, and other people do. They will have to go. So people from outside the EU at the moment need to go to a visa application center to apply for a visa. But they have come up with a more simplified way where European citizens can apply for visas online by submitting documents by mobile phone or submitting their pictures, using a selfie and things like that. So it can all be done on your mobile phone. You don't have to go anywhere.
Mm.
That's what is currently being proposed for people coming from the EU. Now, I don't know whether the EU is also going to come up with something similar, where if you intend to go to Spain, rather than go to the Spanish embassy to apply for a visa, all you need to do is go online or on your mobile phone, or you could do that by an app. I don't know. But that's like the way the UK is going to treat EU citizens coming to live in the UK after June 2021.
Okay, so let me just very quickly on Facebook, Amaka. Can you hear? Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just saying that on Facebook, Amaka Wokaji is saying that there have been quite a few important decisions from the High Court, which have improved some applicants' circumstances. I know you've mentioned, about you've mentioned about the fees and all of that. Is there any more that we need to know about, for instance, that might be useful?
I didn't catch that question.
So I have somebody viewing online, Amaka Wokaji, and she says that there have been quite a few High Court decisions will improve the applicant's circumstances. So my question to you is, you've mentioned 2 already. Are there any more that we need to be aware of?
Yes, I think there are several other decisions which have made, especially family applications, for example. For people who don't meet the immigration rules, the immigration threshold, the minimum income threshold we're talking about. There was a case called Lebanon a few years ago where the Supreme Court forced the Home Office to change their policy of insisting on these very high fees or high threshold for meeting the immigration rules. So, for example, if you didn't meet the rules, you're allowed to have what is called third-party support. If you've got somebody who is able to step in and help you financially in order to meet the rules, you could do that.
Okay. All right.
So that has already been adjusted by several human rights challenges, which have brought a change of policy by the Home Office.
All right, great. I wanted to find out because time, obviously, we said an hour. It's always fair that we respect that. So tell me very quickly. I know you say that this document doesn't have a lot in it. It's 130 pages of waffle. It sounds like. So then we used to have a situation where you had to have a guarantor, for instance. Is that still the case? What's happened with that?
In what, a guarantor for this application, you mean?
Yeah, a guarantor for an application. If you were a student, I think you had to have a guarantor that supported your application previously. Is that still a requirement?
You still need. Is
it also relevant to EU students as well?
I can't say what. See, the problem with EU students or EU citizens at the moment is a lack of clarity. Now, in terms of sponsorship, you still need to, as a student coming to the UK to study, you still need to demonstrate that you have enough money to sustain yourself. That could be through your parent or through whoever is sponsoring your education. If you are not sponsoring it yourself, they need to look at your bank account. The bank account, if it's a parent supporting a child or paying for a child's education, they need to see that they've got sufficient income available, so sufficient resources to maintain that student through their course of study. So that's one of the points. So if you consider the 10 points for financial the financial 10 points in that application form. If you're obviously a student or a young person, obviously you don't have the money. Someone else is financing your studies.
Okay.
So, but they still need to be satisfied that you've got enough money and that you're not simply using the student route to come here and never study after you arrive.
Okay, so on closing, what does this 130-page document that there was so much noise being made, what does it afford you? What does it give us? Who does it favor? What changes does it have? Let's try and end on that, so that for those who are watching, who are hopeful for better rules to be able to work with, hopefully they will get something.
I don't say there's nothing here for people to be hopeful about. There are some changes.
Right. What are those?
The switching, for example, switching from one visa category to another.
Okay, that's one. Excellent.
That's one. And the requirement of not having to leave the UK in order to make an application.
Okay, so to extend your visa, you don't have to leave the country anymore. That's two. What else do we have?
That's and you've also got in the issue that universities are, or what are called higher education providers, will be given some leeway in the way in which they monitor students their academic progress on their courses. If it's called, so they've got this sort of credible or respectable institutions where they can leave the universities to do the monitoring and not get that done by the Home Office themselves. So the monitoring of progress is like universities, or they're going to make it easier for institutions to find out whether people have got the right to study or the correct papers to be able to remain in the UK for the purposes of study.
Okay, that's fantastic. Anything else we have in there?
Well, well, we've been talking for a very long time, so I don't actually remember what I've said and what I haven't said so far.
Wanted us to just leave, for those who are watching, to leave them with, the hopefuls, what the 130-page document actually gives them, because obviously people were looking forward to what the changes will be. Everybody's, we're all on tiptoes at the moment, especially if you're coming from the EU. And we wanted to know what this affords us. There's been a lot of talk. So I just wanted to be able to give the audience something to go away with.
Well, if you are from the EU, things are going to change in a significant way, but there's a suggestion that the visa application process is essentially going to be pain-free. If you're coming to the UK to work, they have reduced, for example, the amount of money that you would be expected to earn before you're allowed to come in. I think it's from about £25,000 to about 20,480, which is some reduction in the minimum income or salary that you will be expected to earn. But that is all within the point system and how these points are going to be allocated for different criteria.
Right.
Like I said at the beginning, I'm just disappointed that the information we are getting right now, 6 months or 5 months out, is not sufficient enough for businesses and individuals to plan their future with confidence, and that's a shame. There will be further announcements down the line, but what people are interested in is clear detail. And I don't think it helps for the government, because time and again you get these massive announcements. And I get in my my WhatsApp several clients sending me that there's this huge improvement in the immigration system. It's called this, I think this week it was this healthcare visa that everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
But once you try to understand the policy,
it just
they're just announcing. I'm not really just in relation to this, but in relation to many other things that I see going viral on YouTube, on WhatsApp, it's just a repeat of existing policies, or they make announcements that sound to most people to be very attractive and progressive, when in fact the opposite is true. And the policies are vague and quite unhelpful.
Well, we could go on, but I must, for the sake of time, I have held you here for quite a while, and you've been so gracious in responding, in trying to answer the questions with such difficult, as you've just said there, difficult rules that just seems very much like the hallmark of the current administration, unfortunately. But
thanks for having me. It's been a great. I mean, look, we are going to get more announcements down the line. I'm happy to come back and have a discussion on the new immigration policy.
That will be absolutely fantastic. It'll be great for us to revisit this. But for everybody that's watching, I want to say, with what you've heard, it sounds like the waiting game is not up just yet. Chengetai, I am so grateful for you being here today. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for explaining and enlightening us as to what is available right now, what is not available, and what we should expect. We really appreciate that. Thank you for your time tonight, sir. For everybody that's watching, we hope to have him back. I wanted for us to have clarity on what was actually out there. But it sounds like the waiting game still continues, as I've said. But I will encourage you, let's hold fast. Hopefully, they're going to come up with better rules. Let's hope and look forward to the Home Secretary being able to revisit that 2014 or the current hostile environment as we've seen it. The truth is that it's not really benefiting the UK. There are so many loopholes and there are so many problem areas that needs to be resolved. But hold on to your resolve yourselves if you're having these issues. The courts sound as though they're doing a great job at the moment to create the leeways and to overturn a lot of these decisions. I wish you all the very best. If you have applications that are pending, that are waiting, that is giving you anxiety, hang in there. Hopefully there will be an answer soon. And on that note, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, for being patient, and for being with me every Wednesday evening so far. I hope we can do it again next week. Until then, take care of yourselves. Good night.